Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the new budget Militaw. This is the full-size one. They do make a mini. It's the same, but it's smaller. But yeah, the Militaw is definitely one of my favorite Kizer knives ever. The only issue with it for some people was the price because it was made with premium materials. And that one is definitely worth buying because even at that territory, it's hyper competitive. This was kind of a no-brainer thing. I feel like everybody saw this coming, was bringing the Militaw to the budget end of the knife world. And it definitely is. This is a $69 knife, giggity. And it is well worth it. It comes in either Nitro V or 154cm, and a admittedly very odd combination of scale materials. This one in particular, people are calling the Spiderman Militaw or the Spider Tar, well, whatever, right? I like it because it's KU colors. I'm from Kansas, and I've always enjoyed KU. So I've been carrying this one and really, really enjoying it, but it's a good knife. It's exactly what you guys think. You guys know I'm going to say a bunch of nice things about this, right? But I'll go ahead and do my full review process so that I can cover the details that people might want to hear about it. I will link this knife down in the description. It really does help my channel when you use those links before you buy something, but that's entirely up to you. Thanks to Kizer for sending this in. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. Let's go ahead and get a measurement. This thing is the same as the premium one. It's just got a different locking system. Overall length of the Militaw is just a hair shy. Nope, I lied. It's 8 inches on the dot. Blade length, I'm coming up with 3.35 inches, and your cutting edge is 3 1/4. How about some size comparisons? Any custom scales you find in this section can be found down in the description under Original Goat and others. Up against the AD10 and the AD20.5. It's a full-size knife, but definitely kind of in between these two. More along the same size as the 20.5, just a little bit longer. How about up against the Spyderco? Where is that? I got the Spyderco PM2. Man, I always lose that thing. Up against the PM2 and the Para 3 that I was just playing with. There it is. The Para 3, the knife that I've carried probably more than anything else. Closer to the size of the PM2, but with more cutting edge. Definitely worth pointing out there. And then finally, let's put it up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue and the Hogue Deca. How is the action on this knife? A lot of you have handled, you know, the premium one, and you probably know that the premium one, as good a job as Kizer does with action, the Militaw has kind of a special, whatever, I don't know what it is about the knife, but it just feels extra crispy and extra smooth. And if you've handled it, then you know that, right? Did that translate to the budget one? Yeah. This is beautifully smooth, beautifully easy to operate as a front flipper, to reverse flick it, right, if you want to do the forward flick. It's just friendly, right? It's not necessarily venturing too far from the, like, common good utilitarian knife path. There's a lot of things here. A lot of people could look at this outside of the colors and say, that just looks like a knife. It's not really all that interesting. Some combination of all of these generic, you know, elements, something that the designer did here. This is a Kizer knife, but it was designed, I forget the designer. Does it actually say? Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. If you look this up on the Kizer website, it names the designer. It's I'm losing it here in the moment. But the way that this was designed and manufactured, it just the final part of the equation is it's just really good. It's very friendly. This is a liner lock, not a frame lock, but it essentially feels exactly the same. You just move the liner out of the way and it drops, right? I think where it contacts your finger is just slight. I'm just barely making it into that sharpening choil area, but access to the liner is substantial, right? You can see this is cut slightly lower, which is just perfect. It's really friendly. This just works. So very good. Runs on bearings. Let's go ahead and do carry profile. Thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. It's slightly thicker, but these scales are contoured, which is beautiful, and it's very noticeable. In hand, it's super comfortable. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. This is a really easy knife to carry. Admittedly, the smaller one is, as you would imagine, more compact, but I prefer this one. This just fits my hand better, and I like the size of it, and it's still compact enough that it's not like I need the whole knife to be smaller folded up, but that's the beauty of there being a smaller one and a bigger one. You can just pick the one that's going to work for you. I think the larger one is plenty compact and lightweight, especially these new versions that are not in full titanium. They're even lighter weight. So this just worked really well. And I carried this like the testing period for this knife, right? I'm not saying like the blade is like overly worn or anything, but this guy got a little more carry time and a little more use than a lot of the other knives that I carry on average that are at this price point. I just really enjoyed this one, so I got a lot of extra time with it. A little shorter than the PM2, not quite as tall this way. Definitely longer than the Para 3, but still not quite as tall this way. Materials, what are we looking at here? In this case, we have G10 with G10, and then we have this coated, it's not really it's more of just like Kizer's paint. It might be similar to like a Cerakote, but probably just paint. It did hold up, like cutting boxes and things didn't wear off, you know, but I wouldn't imagine that this black coating is going to be incredibly durable. It's not DLC. You do get the option of either a stone washed or the coated blade, and then you can get weird stuff. They got like the confetti G10 Mascus. They got the PEI stuff, which is the non-name brand Ultim. In some cases, they work with, this would be the more expensive mini Militaw. They had zirconium in there, right? Just a lot of bizarre stuff. It surprised me how few options there were that appeared more normal. And I understand that word is very subjective, but when you look at the options for the Militaw, you'll be like, wow, that's really colorful and straight. Like they used like everything, but they didn't make just like a regular plain version. It's cool. Kizer, I think it's a great idea that you're bringing this to the budget knife world, and that you're experimenting with materials that make it cost less money. That's great. You should definitely make some more plain ones that are just like one solid color, or, you know, more subdued, just for people who don't want the bright and the colorful. They have a couple options, but not very many. You have way more like wackadoo options than anything else, and that's great for people who want that. But it seems like you're over-serving one side. Just a suggestion, right? Again, very subjective. But in this case, we have G10 plus Nitro V. At least to my knowledge, that one's Nitro V. You can also get them in, it does say Nitro V right there. You can also get them in 154 cm. Both steels are great. Pick your poison. Let's go ahead and weigh it. You do have steel liners on this guy. Where is the scale? There it is. So steel liners, and then you're going to have a little bit of variation in weight depending on what materials you have for the scales and the inlay here. This weighs 3.9 ounces. Not bad. It's not a perfect ratio, and the balance is back a ways from the pivot, but it's also right there where you're going to have your index finger in that primary position. So it feels pretty good is what I'm saying. The mini is definitely going to weigh less. Let's go ahead and measure the blade stock thickness, just because I know where the calipers are in the moment, and this upload seems to be a lot of me misplacing things. So 117 thousandths, definitely on the thinner side. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'll get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. This is a T8. I imagine the pivot and all of the body screws are also T8. Yes. So you have these screws for this. It's like they're the integrity screws, and they're also holding in this scale here. This is cool, and that's kind of like how the Militaw is. I like that for people who want the dual color or the dual material thing. It is 8 screws, so that's kind of a bummer. Not impossible by a long shot to take apart. By the way, the pocket clip screws are T6, and for some reason, Kizer of all companies, come on, guys. Lefties, what's going on here? Do you make a lefty Militaw? I feel like you don't. There should definitely be an option for lefty carry for the pocket clip. But anyways, you definitely should just make a version that's one solid scale color. I think that would be a good idea, but obviously that comes down to the designer, and that's just how they wanted to do it. So not hard to take apart. You got a few extra screws, but fortunately most of them are T8. As long as you have the right tools for the job, you should be good to go. All right, meat and potatoes time. This is a good, comfortable value knife for sure. You get good blade materials depending on whether you choose 154 cm or Nitro V. They're great. There's nothing wrong with either of them. They're definitely in the appropriate price point there. In fact, a lot of people would say it's priced, especially for 154 cm, is a little lower than what we normally see it, but I think that's where 154 cm should be. These scales are contoured. They're nicely radiused at the edge, so it's not a hard drop off. It's everything you love about the full-size Militaw. It's just not as expensive, right? So if you've never experienced the full-size Militaw, this is very, very comfortable in the standard hammer grip, in the choked up grip. We have jimping that only extends out to here, which is kind of a bummer. It really should have gone all the way out to here. But that's fine, right? It's not really that big of a deal. The front flipper on this is super easy and very crispy on the brake, very satisfying. You might think that a triangle would not be the optimal shape for deploying, but you know what? It works. There's plenty of room to get your thumb in there and do a nice, satisfying like thumb flick. It's also incredibly satisfying to do the reverse flick. The detent is nice and clicky, so you feel really satisfied when you're deploying it. But most importantly, it's just really easy to manipulate. It's very friendly to manipulate. So when you're not trying to like entertain yourself with your knife and flick it out and do all this cool stuff, when you're actually needing to use it, you need to pull it out of your pocket and deploy it. It will do that with minimum effort. I mean, the number of brain cells required to get this thing to operate safely are 1. That's it, right? It's not complicated. It's straightforward and utilitarian, right? There are a bajillion knives on the market that accomplish essentially the same thing. The magic here is that this is a particularly well-designed knife with classic elements that's got a little bit of character between the two, since there's an option for like 2 different materials here or 2 different colors or whatever. And then it's made by Kizer, so you're going to get that super high quality. There's no difference in the quality between Kizer's super premium end and their budget end. It's just the difference in materials. Kizer is definitely capable of heat treating blades properly, of creating knives with good tolerances, right? And they work with a number of really, really good designers. It's just kind of like checks a lot of boxes. The Militaw is a favorite amongst community members, content creators, right? It's just a really good knife, and it just kind of fits everything together. So it was not a surprise at all that they decided to do a version of this at budget territory, right? It says Kizer on this side, and then we have the designer's logo there and Militaw, and then it says Nitro V. As I always say, minimizing billboarding if it has to be there is the way to go. I don't like to see things extend out into here. It's not hurting anything, and it's relatively small, right? I always prefer that it's not there at all, but I can't win that battle for sure. So it's fine. Very comfortable. Fit and finish is great. You've got a couple of standoffs back here. No lanyard hole. You could attach one. If you're going to attach a lanyard, I'd do it to this barrel right there because it's furthest from the blade, but it's still going to slowly eat away. The sharpened edge is going to slowly eat away at your lanyard, right? You can always attach it to the loop in the pocket clip if you really need to do that. I know lots of people do that. The pocket clip is all right. It's straight and then a dip and then there's a little bill, so it might be kind of snaggy, right? Truthfully, for me, in and out of the pocket, it was fine. Every now and then it got hung up on the pocket seam because it's a flat bill. I always like it to end at a ramp. That way, when we push it against the pocket clip rises to meet whatever the thickness of the pocket seam is. That's just me being ultra nitpicky because I don't like to use 2 hands to push and pull my knife from my pocket. But truthfully, it was fine. My experience was fine. This is not textured. I think they have some versions that are textured and the pocket clip sits right on that texturing. So depending on the version that you get, it might eat up your pockets just a little bit. No big deal. Because this is not an exposed frame lock, which the standard Militaw has still got an overlay on top of it, but there's no part of the lock that is accessible from this side. So squeezing the knife or anything like that, right? When you're deploying the knife, you don't have to worry about where to put your fingers so as to avoid putting unnecessary pressure on the system that's responsible for locking it. That's the benefit of a liner lock underneath a scale, right? So this should be essentially as reliable as the frame lock version, and Kizer does a good job with their liner locks. They know how to get the geometry correct and keep it reliable in a normal environment, right? If you're abusing your knife, it probably won't survive, right? But if you're using your knife like a pocket knife and just cutting things and not trying to like build a house with it or pry up a bomb shelter with it, then you'll probably be just fine. The stop pin is located actually, where the heck is the stop pin on this guy? It must be internal and I'm just missing it. Let's see here. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So the stop pin, you might not be able to see it, but the stop pin is actually attached to the blade. Let's see if we can get like a piece of paper under here. We'll use this. Maybe we can get a white background. And if you can see, you might, can you see it? There's stops right there attached to the blade, so they're riding on channels carved out on either side of the liners, right? So they contact on each side, which is great. Adds to stability while keeping the blade operating very smoothly and allowing it to be centered, which, by the way, it is. I haven't had to adjust this the entire time I've had it, so it's doing really great. No blade play, up, down, left, or right. No lock stick, no pivot lash, incredibly smooth action, and a nice medium strength detent, which is what it should be, given the deployment options. Yeah, this is a recommendable knife. $69 for the big one, $59 for the small one, which I haven't decided if I need to do a full review on that one, but maybe I will. I don't know. Yeah, I love this. I think this is an excellent budget knife. I think this is one of the better budget knives that's come out for 2024. Highly, highly recommendable. This is one of those knives that's kind of an everybody knife. It is on the higher end, but they do some extra stuff, right? They give you the dual material options. They need some planar options, but it is nice you get, in this case, 2 different colors of G10, and Nitro V and 154cm are definitely steels that we don't normally see a lot. Well, Nitro V we do, but not a lot of 154cm. Those are good balanced steels, right? So great user steels. It's just a good knife all the way around. Definitely a recommendable knife, and definitely a knife that I'll put in my cheap knives I like playlist because it's under 75 bucks. That's gonna be it today, guys. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.